What is going on, everybody? LightningSnow back today with another video. I'm following up on a certain video that I did a few weeks back, which is the Wolverine versus the Akatsuki one. Someone in the comments said I should do this one today, which is, obviously you can tell, Deadpool versus the Akatsuki. So today with me, I have my buddy Sage back again to do this one. Say, everybody.
Yo, what's up, guys? Always good to be on the channel. Thank you for having me, man. And this one's gonna be a fun topic to talk about, so I'm excited to jump into it.
For sure. So you know, why not bring Deadpool into the Naruto universe? I mean, he's already going across the multiverse in the Wolverine Deadpool movie, so we might as well just go ahead and have him do a side story, multiversal kind of fight. So, I'll leave a link for the description and in the description below for the Wolverine versus the Akatsuki one if you want a context, what we're doing on this one. So it's gonna be the same format. It's pretty much Deadpool being put in the Naruto universe with surface level knowledge of some of these Akatsuki members, he has his own personal bingo book, if you will, just to kind of give the some of the fairness, but he won't know pretty much everything. He will have maybe 10% of knowledge on these characters. I feel so. It's more of an assassination mission, kind of similar to the Wolverine one we did. He's sent to assassinate these characters, and that's pretty much how the fights are going to go. Most of them will probably divulge into a one-on-one confrontation anyway. But we thought it'd be a little bit more interesting because, Deadpool is kind of that kind of funny, childlike demeanor kind of person. So, I feel some of these assassinations would fail anyway, in terms of being stealthy. Even though he is a special forces operative and he's a war hero and this and that. So it's but it's also it's Deadpool. Come on. So, that's pretty much what we're gonna go with. So, Sage, you got anything before we start?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be, first of all, it's worth noting that Deadpool is going to go into this with his standard tech and gear. And so because he has the bingo book, right, he's going to have, the bingo book gives you, this person is an S-class criminal. These are very basic descriptions of their abilities, but, both Hidan and Kakuzu were in the bingo book, and Kakashi and Team 10 knew next to nothing about their abilities. Same thing with Itachi, he was in the bingo book. Same thing about Kisame, he was in the bingo book. But, it's not like they knew about the Yatamir and Totsuka Blade or the Super Shark Bomb. So that's worth noting, number one. Number two, again, he's going to go into it with his standard tech. So he will have the Carbonadium Blades, which we'll get into here in a little bit. He will have his teleportation device because he did use this for a long time in the comics, but then eventually stopped using it because he said it made things too easy. But I think when he's going up against the likes of the Akatsuki, even with just bare minimum knowledge and what they can do, I think he'd bring it with him in character. So, yeah, I think aside from that, I'm ready to hop into it if you are.
All right, cool. So, as usual, we kind of start off with Zetsu. Zetsu's a bit of a wild card sometimes because, I don't want to sleep on Zetsu, but Zetsu just chronologically does not have, a lot of damage output. And I'm not going to say he's featless, but it's not that he's fearless. It's just he doesn't participate in a lot of fights. A lot of actual hand-to-hand ninjutsu kind of fights. So it's I don't think I could realistically put Zetsu on Deadpool's level. Even if you give him 1,000 Zetsu clones or Zetsu figures or whatever, I don't know. I think Deadpool at best. I mean, Deadpool could probably tire out or whatever and just get tired and but. Again, like Sage mentioned, he's got his teleporter, so if he really felt like there was too many to handle, he could just get out of there. And yeah, Zetsu would kind of win the fight that way, but Deadpool would still be alive. So I don't know. It might just come out to a draw in a funny way, I suppose. But point is, I don't see Zetsu winning this one. Sage, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, so Deadpool in his standard kit, he's got a bunch of grenades. He's got heavy assault weapons. We got laser rifles, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And so, worst case scenario, if Zetsu does generate a bunch of Zetsu spores that can then spread out and things, he would just have to use his heavier assault weapons and things to take them down. But with the Carbonadium Blades, and this is something that we'll go into heavier with another character later on, what they do, oh, by the way, we are doing power equalization here. So essentially, radiation equals chakra, Deadpool's abilities are stemmed from chakra, etc., etc. So just to let you guys know, to make things make more sense. But the carbonadium blades, what they do is they stop the ability of regeneration. So if he slices off an arm from Zetsu, he's not growing that thing back. You know, like even with his physical properties, it's not happening. And these are his standard katanas that he has. So I think that it's kind of just a hard matchup for Zetsu to overcome. Also, Zetsu will have a really hard time doing anything that's going to significantly damage Deadpool. I mean, he takes blows from the likes of, you know, the Hulk. I mean, it shatters his bones and things, but he's able to regen so fast it doesn't matter. So Zetsu just doesn't really have any win conditions here. I mean, I could see 50 different ways that Deadpool wins this, and not really one that Zetsu does. So I think we spent too much time on Zetsu already.
Yeah. All right, Hidan's next, and like with the Wolverine one that we did a few weeks ago, this one's kind of almost synonymous, where like they're immortal, but their immortality is a little bit different. Like, and they both feel pain though, so it's you know, they do get stopped in their tracks one way or the other after it being injured or whatnot. But the problem with Hidan, though, is that if he gets a couple limbs cut off, they can't regenerate if he doesn't have, like, Kakuzu with him to reattach or something like that. Whereas Deadpool just, you know, and we've confirmed that Deadpool's healing factor is above Logan's, like, by a good margin. So, yeah, like, I don't even think that even if, you know, again, like the one we did, like the Wolverine one, like, if Hidan's serious from the jump, you know, and right from the get-go and takes some blood from Deadpool, maybe. I mean, even that, though, even if Hidan is, again, serious and stabs his own heart to try to end the fight quickly, I mean, I don't think Deadpool's regen is going to, you know, I mean, his regen's going to regrow that heart, like, really fast. So, like, I just don't think it's fast enough to, like, Hidan's got nothing, honestly. I hate saying it, but, like, and when it comes to, like, swordplay and, you know, compared to Hidan's scythe, I mean, don't get me wrong, Hidan's, like, crazy and with his scythe abilities, but, like, Deadpool has trained for years with his blade, and that's what he's meant. That's what, like, what he's most known for in terms of, like, physical combat ability. So I'm pretty sure Deadpool is safe on this one. Even if Deadpool is just kidding around, trolling Hidan, I think Deadpool's got this one.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, Deadpool is just a better version of Hidan. Like, whenever Asuma cuts Hidan's ear, it never grows back. Like, he continues to have that piece of his ear gone. So his immortality and, you know, quote-unquote regen is reliant upon Kakuzu putting him back together. So I just don't see a way in which he doesn't get his head cut off and then just die. Like, I mean, Deadpool in character does allow himself to get hit by attacks he could probably dodge, so I could see a scenario in which Hidan gets him, you know, licks the blood, does the whole ritual, and Deadpool kind of just would laugh that off. Yeah, his heart would regen almost immediately. So, yeah, there's just, again, there's not a way for Hidan to win this. Deadpool literally just has to decapitate him and separate the head from the body, and he's good. So.
Yeah. So, all right, so moving on to Konan. This one I thought at first would give Deadpool some trouble, but as we look further into Deadpool's arsenal, like Sage mentioned earlier, he's got a teleportation device, and we weren't entirely sure, like, because we were trying for a while to find, like, an upper limit to how many times he could teleport with that device before he needs a recharge or as a cooldown, so to speak. But from what we've seen, it doesn't look like there's all the cooldown time that's needed. But for the sake of fairness in this, because that it's kind of broken, we said that, like, you know, Sage brought up a feat in the comics where he traveled around Manhattan teleporting like 6 or 7 times. So, you know, we'll give him like 7 times of that teleportation device, you know, maximum, just to kind of give a good level. But, you know, for those of you who are like comic book purists, there's a chance that that device does not require a cooldown time. So just keep that in mind. But with regards to this fight, again, I thought it might be easier for Konan, but it's because she can fly, so she kind of, like, you know, kind of counters Deadpool's more or less melee fighting style, even though, like, he's known to have guns and weaponry and whatnot, but for the most part he has his swords that he relies on. So, like, I don't know, with the teleportation and device, like, yeah, he couldn't, like, if he gets up to midair while Conan's flying, he could just fall right back down. But I mean, if he gets high enough on some buildings to where he can, like, you know, jump on her or blitz her from a distance or whatever, like there's a chance he takes it before Konan can even notice. And personally, to me, like, yeah, Deadpool's durability isn't as strong as Logan's, but with his regen being faster, I think it almost kind of cancels out. So every one of Konan's abilities, their paper style attacks, aren't going to do enough raw damage to Deadpool to really do anything. So that's my take on it. Sage, you got anything?
Yeah, so the big issue he's going to run into is Konan's weird physiology. Like the fact that she can turn herself into paper and disperse could be a massive issue for him. Now, the issue that she's going to run into, though, is he can teleport up to her, again, like Lightning was saying, but he can also, like, in character, if Deadpool is in a fight and he figures out he doesn't have a way to take this person down, he will just teleport away from the fight, go find something that he could use, and then teleport back. Like, we know that in canon, in the Marvel Universe, he has weapons and ammo and, you know, explosives stashed in places all over the world. So I could see a scenario in which he's like, wow, this lady turns into paper. That's really weird. 1 second, I'll be right back. Teleports away, comes back with like some sort of incendiary, you know, some sort of incendiary grenade, you know, that uses gasoline or something, you know, to get, you know, the paper ignited. And I think like he could cause some serious issues with her that way. And I know people are like, oh, wouldn't that be BFR? Not when it's Deadpool. I mean, he's choosing to leave the house.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
Also, if that's somebody's argument, then technically any time that Minato or Tobirama use FTG in a battle, it's BFR, because FTG literally moves the user into a subspace or a different space and then back into the main space. So that's technically BFR, so they've lost every battle. That's what I thought. Okay. So, I mean, he genuinely could just be like, I think I left the stove on, teleport, go grab something, come back, and end her that way. But yeah, she just doesn't have what it's going to take in order to fully put him down before I think he figures out how to put her down. So I would give this one to Deadpool as well.
For sure. Sorry. So next one we have, what, Deidara? Yeah, Deidara. So Deidara, y'all, I mean, again, like with the Wolverine one, we gave it to Deidara for the most part because, like, again, he counters Logan and Deadpool respectively because he can fly, right? And his C4 does kind of present a problem, but, like we just said, the teleporting kind of just cancels that out. I mean, first of all, I don't really know if Deidara is as quick as Deadpool, because Deadpool is freaking fast. Like, in one of the comic panels that I was researching for a few days, you know, I was looking up his feats or whatever. The one I found is he was able to avoid Cyclops' beam right as it was shot. Like, Deadpool's reaction time and speed is no joke. And just gotta give more of a reference point of how fast he is, shown to keep up with a plane taking off at like 150 miles per hour. So Deadpool's fast, y'all. He's no joke. So, you know, bare minimum, I think I put his speed like around heavy Sasuke. If, again, bare minimum, if you want to like highball him more, you could. I could totally see an argument for it. And so there's a good chance like he'd be able to blitz Deidara before he even gets on a C2 dragon. But if he is, and let's say like the fight drags out, yes, C4 would probably be enough to maybe get the job done, you would think, right? But the thing is, though, is Deadpool's been turned to ash before by Thor and still was able to regenerate. So if Deidara is none the wiser, which he wouldn't know about Deadpool's regen, I'm sure at this point, like by the time he used C4, then yeah, I don't see C4 really being able to kill him, right? C0 is probably the better chance because at that point, the damage output would be enough to like just vaporize him. But it would end in a draw at that point. So, like, C2 dragons and the C1 various bombs, yes, it can, in theory, do enough damage to, like, you know, quote, damage Deadpool, but nothing that he can't instantly regenerate from. So that's, like, the kicker. But this is all forgetting for the fact that Deadpool can teleport onto the dragon if the fight got that far. Like, just so you know, I was giving Deidara some benefit of the doubt just like all that whole time because I love Deidara and wanted to give something to him. But again, that's all assuming that Deadpool just doesn't, you know, teleport right from the jump and just takes his head off on the dragon. So I'm rambling. Say what you got.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. His ability to fly and the advantage that gives him is totally eliminated by Deadpool's ability to teleport. He would also be taken off guard by that, at least initially. So Deidara is super smart. He's got a lot of really good tactical feats, in particular with his fight against Sasuke. So I don't want to sleep on that. But he also knew what, like, the standard Uchiha hit was, with, like, fire style, you know, the Sharingan, all that stuff. And he has sort of built his whole, he has built his whole arsenal around fighting in Uchiha because of his just pure hatred towards Itachi. So I'm not sure if he'd be prepared for this guy to teleport behind him and just cut his dome off, which I could definitely see happening. And the more interesting thing is, like what Lightning was talking about, is which of his attacks could actually put Deadpool down. Sure, C3 is able to significantly wound Bijou and put down even the Three Tails, which is crazy because they tend to scale somewhere vaguely below their Bijou bombs. So, I mean, this is like a nearly Bijou bomb level attack. But the thing is, like, Deadpool's regeneration is insane. So you'd have to argue that it absolutely vaporized him, not turned him to ash. We'll get to that in a little bit. If he's turned to ash, he can still come back. So it would really only be the C0 that works in terms of completely vaporizing him, which again is like a tie. So I do give Deadpool this as well, probably pretty quickly. I think, you know, they'd go hand to hand for a little bit, and he would realize that he's fast, and just like he did against Sasuke, he would hop on that C2 dragon. And then he's just getting teleported behind and his head cut off. And the Murk with a mouth is collecting that bounty.
Yeah, for sure. So, next we can move on to Sasori. Sasori is a bit of a wild card. I've said this multiple times. He is like fighting a Final Fantasy boss, because every time he pulls something out that you deal with, right around the corner is something else that he pulls out that you're like, okay, well, now I gotta deal with this. Which is probably how Deadpool would be, right, in a fight. He's like, well, now I gotta deal with this. What's next, you know? Anything else you got hiding under that puppet you got, you know? But again, his speed and strength, I think he'd be relative to, you know, to not Sakura level strength, because, I mean, Sakura is a tank, right? And I was really trying to give Deadpool something as far as his strength goes, because he was shown to be pretty strong in the comics. Sage brought up a good feat to me before we start recording. Sage, you wanna list it real quick?
Yeah, so Deadpool has consistently been able to, like, stun Wolverine. Now, it's taken a couple of hits, but he's able to stun this guy, who was able to take punches from the Hulk, and now the Hulk has knocked him out, the Hulk has stunned him. But the fact that Deadpool is able to hit him so hard that he's able to actually, like, you know, knock him off his rocker for a second, just gets his attack potency with his punches and kicks to a ridiculous level. And what's really funny about this is there's actually been a couple of instances where he's hit Logan so hard that he stunned him, but he also, like, broke his hand or his foot or whatever he hit him with. And so, I mean, I could definitely see that happening here. But basically what this does for this fight is it gives him the attack potency he would need to be able to damage these puppets severely. Because, you know, I mean, obviously the Hulk has crazy attack potency. I'm not putting Deadpool's striking power on that level, but in order to be able to actually stun somebody like Logan, you're gonna need, like, not quite Spider-Man levels of strength, but really high. Like, we're talking city block levels of attack potency. So I would say that this should be able to damage all of these puppets. I'm not sold on the Iron Sand being able to be damaged with his punches, but, you know, the third cousin people give him credit for. But really, this is going to come down to his weaponry, I think, in this matchup, and his own physiological resistance to poison. You want to sort of talk about those things?
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, like, Deadpool's really nimble, and he's really agile, and he's, like I said earlier, he's fast enough to, like, dodge a complete laser beam from Cyclops at pretty much point blank. So I think with, as far as, like, the 100 puppets and even the third Kazekage, I think it's definitely more likely that he dodges, like, every single attack. That's, like, I'm not trying to, like, sleep on Sasori, but, like, Deadpool is really nimble. So, like, hitting him with the poison blade and whatnot, it's not going to be easy. Poison fog, yeah, you could say he get caught with it, but like Sage said, he's got some crazy resistance to poison in the comics. So the only thing I could say about that is that maybe because Sasori's poison is a special case that it could work. But again, with this, like, the way that Deadpool's regeneration is, and I don't know if, like, Logan's is like this specific, but his cells are consistently being healed as they're being attacked. So that could apply to his organs as well. Like the damage is being output from toxins, whatever, could be healed like just as fast as they're being damaged. So I don't know. I'd probably give it more likely to Deadpool to survive against the poison. At best, you can probably give it to Sasori because it's a special case. If it doesn't work, though, then I think Sasori is done for because, again, if he gets all the way down to Sasori's real body, Sasori is not going to be able to survive against Deadpool point blank. And the story was with his speed, strength, and his teleporting ability. Yeah, I don't think Deadpool's got. I don't think Deadpool's losing this one. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so.
And it's worth noting, like, Deadpool's not an idiot. Like, he plays the idiot quite a bit, but he's not stupid. So I think if he gets down to Sasori's main body and he sees this heart thing in his chest, he'll be like, oh, that's interesting. Let's go ahead and take that out. And literally, he could teleport behind him and stab him through it just to see if it works.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, Sasori's poison not working on him is going to be the biggest issue because that's sort of Sasori's like main win condition.
Mm-hmm.
And once that doesn't do anything, like probably the Iron Sand going to come out. He might piece him up quite a bit, but Deadpool's regeneration and teleportation should be able to get him the W there. I mean, I don't think that we should have many contentions here, but yeah.
Yeah. So next up, we'll have Kakuzu. Now, I always try to give it to Kakuzu because Kakuzu is really powerful, and I would even say he's a bit slept on, but like we said, like we've been saying, I don't think any of them's got the raw damage output to necessarily kill Deadpool. Like, if C3, if we agree that C3 is not going to be able to kill him, then I don't think anything in Kakuzu's arsenal is going to be able to do. Like, don't get me wrong, like, all the jutsu that Kakuzu's putting out are high-level ninjutsu, especially when they're even stronger and when he's in that weird monster form, but not compared to a C3 bomb from Deidara. And definitely not compared to a C0 bomb from Deidara also. So, yeah, I mean, and honestly, the hearts aren't even really that fast to begin with, and they're also susceptible to being taken off guard, as we've seen before. So, I don't know. I think Deadpool might confuse Kakuzu just by his demeanor alone and, like, get the W on it. Again, like, I don't even, you can even argue that, like, Deadpool wouldn't even need his teleporting device to deal with the hearts. Like, I'm not trying to sleep on Kakuzu at all, but, like, with Deadpool being just naturally as quick and as his reaction time being naturally as high as it is, I don't know. I just can't see. I don't know. It'd be like Kakashi did when he like dodged that lightning strike from one of the masks. It'd be the exact same thing as like the Cyclops feat that I brought up. So, yeah, I mean, and I would think that Deadpool would probably have the damage output deal with the hearts. Like, yeah, he doesn't have any nature affinities to like deal with them. But if we agreed that Logan can do it in our previous video, I don't see a reason why Deadpool's swords couldn't do it either. So
yeah, well, and Deadpool's swords are able to pierce the likes of, you know, the Hulk. So I would say, like, there's no reason to believe that at bare minimum his swords wouldn't be able to, you know, severely damage these hearts. And I do think that, you know, the versatility of Kakuzu could be a real issue. I do think he has the attack potency to severely damage Deadpool. Now, the question again, though, is can he fully put him down? You know, like we know that he has the false darkness technique, which is that lightning style technique that Kakashi used to Raikiri to counter. But it's only an A rank technique, so, you know, maybe you could argue it takes a couple of his limbs off, and then he just runs around for a couple minutes as they grow back. Like, it's not like in the movie. Like, in the movies, it takes like a whole day for him to grow back one of his limbs. In the comics, it takes like 10 minutes. Yeah. So it takes 13 minutes for him to grow back his head. It takes significantly less for him to grow back. So I don't think that that's really going to be a problem. And, you know, I could really see a scenario in which, like, Kakuzu just overwhelms him with the heart, blows him apart, takes his heart, steals his regeneration or whatever, and then goes to walk away. And, you know, a couple minutes later, Deadpool is totally revived, teleports to him and stabs him with the carbonadium blades, which then stops his regeneration, and then he's able to, like, take him down fully. Like, I know it's like a meme, but the biggest issue that you're going to run into is the ability to actually put this guy down for good, and I just don't think that Kakuzu has what it takes.
No. So, moving on to Kisame. This one is a little bit tougher. I was giving it to Kisame at first. Before we found Deadpool's teleporting thing, because honestly, this was kind of like the similar thing to the Wolverine versus the Akatsuki one, that like, you know, on the ground, hand to hand, or, you know, sword to sword, you know, or claw to sword, I guess you could say, that it's actually even, I feel like, for a good portion of it, as far as Wolverine and Kisame. This might be synonymous, like it might be the same thing, but that we'd agreed on the Wolverine one that if Kisame summons the giant lake or the giant bubble or whatever, that he might like drown out Logan and it'd just be a little bit overwhelmed because Kisame is used to fighting underwater where Logan really isn't. But in this case, that whole jutsu, that whole tactic from Kisame is completely taken out of the water, so to speak, because Deadpool could just teleport out of there. So it's like that like Kisame's arguably his best attack is pretty much rendered useless. Maybe the giant water shark bomb could do some serious damage to Deadpool, but again, I don't think it's on the same level as like a C3. Maybe it's on the same level as C3 bomb. You could maybe argue with enough chakra being put into it, which this is Kisame, so he's got a crap ton. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd put it necessarily on the same level as the C0 that we agreed that could definitely kill Deadpool. So it's very up in the air, but I think for the most part, I think that Deadpool's got the advantage as far as like survivability and when it comes to Kisame. Now, if we're doing this as a war of attrition, like obviously Kisame kind of towers over Deadpool in terms of stamina, but stamina is not going to be the only thing that, you know, matters in this fight. So
yeah, so the biggest things that Kisame has going for him are, number one, his regeneration. He has that as well. And it is pretty crazy. Whenever he's able to steal a good amount of chakra and use that chakra to heal himself, he's able to regenerate like his entire chest cavity, which is super impressive. But it's not as good as Deadpool's. So that's a tick in Deadpool's favor. And number two, his ability to steal people's chakra. Now, he does this two different ways. He does this by using Samehada to shred them to bits and steal chakra as he does that, which could be a problem. I mean, Samehada should be able to severely wound Deadpool and simultaneously take energy from him. So I think that could be a problem, but I only think it would be a problem once. I think Deadpool would regenerate from it and he'd notice like, oh, this guy just took my energy. Let's not let that happen again. And then number two, the other way that he can steal people's chakra is by getting them in the giant water bubble, fusing with Samehada, and then, you know, just grabbing onto them and taking their chakra. So I do think that if he didn't have the teleportation belt or wristband or whatever form he's using at the time, that he would be able to get taken out by this. But because he has that, it's just, like, you can't really argue that Kisame is going to get him in that. So I personally just don't see a way that Kisame is able to beat him unless he severely wounds him with some sort of jutsu, like maybe the 5 hungry sharks, like chew off his legs or something, and then is able to get a hold of him and, you know, drain his chakra away that way. But it just seems much more elaborate than just saying Deadpool teleports behind him and cuts his head off. You know, like, that annoyingly is sort of a win condition in almost all of these. What Kisame has shown some very basic sensory abilities, but he's not like a top tier sensor shinobi, so I think that's probably a legitimate win condition for Deadpool. And if he stabs him with the carbonadium blade, because of the radiation from it, it would stop Kisame's ability to actually heal if he steals his chakra. So Kisame and Deadpool are both characters that allow themselves to be hit because they know that they can regen. And if he makes that mistake after being stabbed by the carbonadium blade, it's just over. So, yeah, I think it's probably close. It probably can go either way, but I would go Deadpool on this one as well.
yeah, so I think we can, you know, safely move on to Itachi. This one was a bit of up in the air because I was leaning more towards Itachi, and I still am. But give him the teleportation. Now, see, you know, a really widespread hot take amongst the Naruto community is that, you know, the Itachi versus Minato fight, you know, that's one that's been debated on years and years and years. And a lot of that is because of Minato's flying Raijin, right? But now we give something that's even more broken than that. Because Deadpool, the thing about Deadpool's teleportation is that he doesn't need a mark. He doesn't need to mark on anything. He doesn't have to mark on kunai. Doesn't have to place a ceiling mark on anything to teleport to it. He can just think about it and he's there. So you give somebody who has a more broken ability than someone who is praised for said broken ability, and put him against this Itachi who's it's already debated on whether or not Minato can take him or not. I don't know. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, again, we're going in this with no knowledge, or relatively no knowledge on Deadpool's side. So he wouldn't know anything about Susanoo, Totsuka Blade, Yadamir. Maybe he knows some Genjutsu, like Itachi's got some, Genjutsu prowess, whatnot. But other than that, he wouldn't know anything about maybe Tsukuyomi. He probably would hear about Amaterasu, this and that. But to be frank, the way that it keeps going, Amaterasu would probably be his safest bet. Sage did mention to me about how Deadpool's, brain is repeatedly being healed by his healing factor, to the point where his psychic defense is ridiculous, because he's able to resist the effects of Charles Xavier, Emma Frost, Jean Grey from entering his mind on repeated occasions. So there's a good chance that Tsukuyomi may not even work. Now, the best thing that I could say for Itachi is that there's the way that the comics that are paneled in the comics, that it doesn't even seem like Charles Xavier or Jean Grey or Emma Frost can even remotely get Deadpool in any kind of psychic trapping at all. But not even within a split second. And we all know that Tsukuyomi just is a second. It's like a microsecond in the real world. So it's if that's not even the case, then Tsukuyomi may not even trap him in the slightest. So that wouldn't leave an opening for Itachi to use Totsuka Blade. So if that's the case, and again, like I said, Amaterasu might be his best bet in order to get the poke with the Totsuka Blade. That's pretty much all I got as far as the whole beginning of the fight. Sage, you got anything for the rest of it?
Yeah, I would say, Itachi in character is going to clash with Deadpool, go back and forth, close quarters combat. I think that could go either way. I'd probably lean Itachi, though. He does have, slightly higher speed assertions, with Deadpool scaling to Wolverine, who's able to, tag targets such as, Quicksilver and such. So he has relativistic assertions, but, Itachi should be a little bit faster. So I would give him the edge there. But he would eventually realize that this guy can regenerate, and so I do think at that point he would try to hit him with a Genjutsu or something, which again wouldn't work because of Deadpool's mind hacks resistance, and then he would hit him with the Amaterasu, which would work. It would turn him to ash, as the dialogue says, and then, Itachi would just leave. But the problem is, Deadpool would come back from that, and then get right back on his ass again. He's coming right back for him. So I think at that point in time, after he hits him with the Amaterasu and that doesn't work, the only thing left in his arsenal is the Totsuka Blade. I do think that's a valid win condition. I think that's probably how the fight ends. 9 times out of 10. But there is sort of a 1 in 10 chance here that we talked about. Lightning, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so as I said at the beginning, I was giving Itachi majority of this fight. Just like Sage said, I would probably give it to Itachi 9 out of 10 times. The one that we feel like Deadpool would take it is, like we've been saying, if he could just teleport into Susanoo as soon as Itachi throws it up and just gets inside and 1,000 years of deaths him, in a way. Yes, it's one of those things where it's it's very debatable on whether or not that can happen within the Susanoo, but I don't see a reason why it can't, because we've seen plenty of times that 2 people can be in a Susanoo at once. More than 2 people can be in a Susanoo. Well, technically. But, so, no. Like I said, it's already debatable whether or not with Minato's flying Raijin, if he can beat Itachi. This is somebody who can just think about teleporting and he's there without any mark whatsoever. So if he really wanted to, he can just get inside Susanoo and stab Itachi, and he's done for. So, but like Sage did say, Itachi is a pretty good sensory type ninja. He's not known for being a sensory type ninja, but he does have some good sensory abilities. So, even if that does happen, there's a chance that he can just, jump back or whatever in time, and, or maybe Amaterasu as soon as Deadpool teleports to him. So I'm not entirely selling that. But again, we're giving this to Itachi 9 times out of 10, with that one for Deadpool being what we just mentioned. So, I think that's fair. I think it's a fair estimate. I don't think that's too outlandish. I think it's totally within the realm of possibility. So yeah, overall, Itachi wins that one. So, next we'll move on to Pain, and I gotta be honest with you. At first, I was giving Pain like 10 out of 10, but with Deadpool being able to teleport, it's gonna be a lot trickier. Now, if we're giving Deadpool only 7 shots with his teleportation, it does hinder a little bit. He's got to be more like, he's got to be more meticulous than ever to use it because he doesn't have many shots to use it before he runs out. And as soon as he does run out of teleporting, he's kind of done. Like, he's kind of cooked. Now, what I will say, though, is if Pain uses Planetary Devastation, that's not going to work. If Deadpool can just teleport out of it, then it kind of renders it useless. All-body push is definitely not going to be enough to kill Deadpool, like, at all. Maybe you could argue, like, a chaotic almighty push would, like, blow Deidara's body apart, but he'd still regenerate, It's not going to vaporize him completely. And so, Bane's best chance is for him to soul steal Deadpool. Like, yeah, the summons can give Deadpool some trouble too, like, without a doubt. But again, they don't have that raw damage output to seriously actually kill Deadpool once and for all, like, put him down permanently. So, soul stealing is going to be his best option. Whether or not, like, he can do it with Deadpool being able to teleport, it's arguable, because we did kind of say, like, will Deadpool 100% take it seriously going in? Which we all know, like, yes, Deadpool's a good tactician. He's special forces special forces op. So yes, he's really smart, but we all know Deadpool's demeanor, especially going into a fight. He doesn't always take a fight seriously. He kind of goose off sometimes. So if he does that kind of stuff here, there's a chance he might get caught lacking by Bane and get his soul ripped out. So, Sage, you got anything about Bane?
I think that because he has the teleportation device, Chibaku Tensei's not working. Shinra Tensei will break all the bones in his body, but he'll just instantly heal. Any of the Asura paths, missiles or anything are not going to put him down. The animal path will be a major issue because he simply does not have the attack potency or range to, like, put those things down. But, like, with him being able to teleport, he might just be able to move out of the way of all of their abilities. So what it comes down to is one of 2 win conditions. Number 1, total immobilization with the Black Chakra Rods, which should work. Or number 2, the Human Path Soul Steal. Now, I think the Soul Steal happens either way, because if they immobilize him, they're just going to use the Soul Steal. But the problem that Pain's going to run into is that he's just really slippery because he's able to teleport around, so he'd have to work around to get a hold of him. But the problem that Deadpool's going to run into is twofold. Number 1, he doesn't know their abilities, and number 2, they have the shared vision. I mean, Deadpool's fast, but he's not Raikiri Kakashi fast, and Kakashi was able to pop out of the smoke using a Raikiri behind the Ashura path and go to take his head off with the Raikiri. But because of a perception amped, Diva path, you actually see his pupils dilated, which TG talked about. The Rinnegan perception mode, which is, great catch on his part. But because of that, because they have that shared vision and the enhanced perception, it allowed for the Ashura path to move out of the way of the attack. So even if Deadpool does teleport behind them and try to take them out, number 1, he probably wouldn't be able to hit them. And number 2, they're already dead. They're just controlled with the chakra rods. So yeah, you can do enough damage to them to where they're not functional, but, like, it's a lot. So I see Deadpool having a really tough time getting a shot on them, and having a really tough time once he does get a shot on them, actually putting them down. And then once he gets that deep into the fight, they've already figured out that he can teleport, be closing in on him. Eventually, they probably immobilize him with Black Chakra Rods and just take his soul, and that's just GG.
Yeah. So, I mean, at best, I think Deadpool can take a few of them out. I don't know if they even be able to get all the way down to the human path and the diva path, but I mean, I'd give it to Deadpool to be able to take out 2 to 3 before they finally get him. You know what I'm saying? I think he's nimble enough and at least strategic enough to deal with it enough to get 2 to 3 of them down before he gets his soul taken out. So more often than not, though, I think Pain takes us about 8, maybe 9 out of 10 times. So. Moving on to Obito, and yeah, like this. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I think Obito does win, right? But with Deadpool being able to teleport, it might take Obito a minute to finally catch him. Especially if assuming the fight gets far enough to where, like, Deadpool. If Deadpool is lucky enough to avoid one combo he suck from Obito, then it does become a little tricky. like then Deadpool can see that he can like suck people in with one touch. But that's assuming Deadpool is lucky enough to survive that first initial combo suck. Which, I mean, it's Deadpool. He's got some really dumb luck, so maybe it's possible. If it is, then yeah, like it might be a little bit tougher for Obito to combo in. Because he can just teleport around. But again, if we're giving him only 7 shots, then he can't do it indefinitely. So either one or two things is going to happen. He's going to run out of teleporting opportunities, and Obito's just going to suck him in. Or Deadpool just runs away, scot-free. But even if Deadpool, like, teleports, still has teleporting, available to him, if Obito does suck him into combo dimension, he can't get out because Deadpool is called because Kamui is called a sealed dimension, so, I mean, there's really no way for Deadpool's teleporting to negate that. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say that Obito takes this about, I would probably say 10 out of 10. I don't even think Deadpool's got it in his bag to take Obito out even once.
100 times out of 100. I mean, like, Deadpool's entire arsenal relies on being able to stab or shoot someone, and like, you can't stab or shoot somebody who can't be touched. And then you'd have to argue that he can use the teleportation device faster than Obito can warp him into the Kamui dimension. And I'm just not sold on that. We also have the fact that Obito does have access to wood style. He can hit him with fire style. He does have the Izanagi. I mean, I imagine we're going orange mask Obito here. Yeah. If it's white mask, it's even worse.
Yeah.
If it's yellow mask, it's probably worse too because of the chains. So there's just not any version of Obito once he gets Kamui that will probably have any issue with Deadpool. So yeah, I've got Deadpool losing hard here. He's probably going to break the fourth wall a few times and be like, why didn't they give me better powers this time around? Yeah. Like there will be some really fun moments, but at the end of the day, Obito's just too much.
Yeah. So speaking of funny moments, I apologize if we kind of were lapping this topic off a little bit more than we should have. I don't think we were personally, but I do realize that, like, maybe it might seem that we're not taking this too seriously. But for one thing, I think we are. But for two, this is Deadpool. Like, I mean, it'd be kind of weird to just be stoic the whole time and not have the Murk with the mouth drop a few jokes here and there within each of these respective fights. But I mean, I think he did pretty good. I think Deadpool, again, wins most of these fights. He just kind of loses to the big three most of the time. So, yeah. So I think the Murk with the mouth does pretty well in the Naruto universe, all things considered. So,
well, there is a way that we talked about that he might be able to beat all of them.
Go ahead.
So, for those of you who are comic nerds, or even maybe you're not a comic nerd, but you've dabbled in the community. There is a comic line called Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, in which he kills the entire Marvel Universe, the entire main cast. Now, this includes high-powered characters like Thor, but for a lot of them, what he had to do is go back in time and find places in time where he could kill them without any sort of disruption. He also has all kinds of crazy tech and stuff. So, I mean, if you gave Deadpool a couple of days of prep to go and gather tools and get a hold of Cable's, time travel device, he might be able to just take all of them out. I mean, his best bet with Itachi would be fighting him as a child and killing him in his sleep. Same thing with Nagato. Same thing with all of them. But yeah, so if you want to go that route and just say, well, he time travels and kills them all like that, that is a valid condition. But we wanted to see how their powers would match up against him, so that's why we did it this way, obviously. But I know somebody's going to talk about that in the comments.
Well, it's better to be safe than sorry and bring it out just to make sure for those comic book purists, because we're getting into the comic books ourselves now that we're doing these more crossover videos. We're diving deeper into like the comic book territory, so we always wanted to make sure we got our T's in order for the most part. But no, I think this was a W video. I think this is a W take on this video. Thank you so much, Sage, for being on this channel with me again.
Anytime, brother. It's always a good time. And if you guys enjoy comic book / Naruto content like this, I did just drop a Superman versus the Akatsuki video, so feel free to check that out. And if you've made it this far and you haven't hit the subscribe button, it's in the bottom right. Like, just click it. It's, Lightning, he put together a great video. He's putting out great content all the time. So just click that, hit subscribe, and then, maybe hit the notification bell so you never miss out when new content drop.
For sure, for sure. Ditto goes for Sage. If you have not subscribed to Sage's channel, be sure to do so because he's also doing crossverse videos. Like, again, I'll drop the link for the description for the Superman video in the description. But yes, please go out and subscribe to him, make some great content. Thank you all for watching all the way to the end if you have. Till my next one, LightningSnow, out.